Shaquille O'Neal, a mountain of a man standing well over 2 meters tall, looked down from his pedestal of pure, unadulterated dominance with a look of absolute cold disdain. He didn't just stand there, he occupied the space. He claimed the very oxygen of the room as his own. He laughed, a deep, resonant sound that seemed to vibrate through the rusting, metal support beams of that makeshift, stifling gym, a sound that carried the weight of hundreds of victories. "You're too slow, Larry," he rumbled, his voice barely rising above the hum of the overhead lights, yet it cut through the room like a jagged blade. The space, which was already crowded, claustrophobic, and suffocatingly hot, went dead silent in an instant. It was as if the air itself had been sucked out of the room, leaving everyone breathless. Larry Bird didn't shout. He didn't fire back with a defensive insult or puff out his chest to match the giant's massive frame. He didn't need to. He simply adjusted the ball in his hands, his eyes narrowing with a look that seemed to perceive the invisible architecture of the situation, a gaze that suggested he was looking at something that no one else in that arena was capable of seeing. Just 4 seconds later, the laughter died, vanishing into the rafters as if it had never existed. The entire gym, packed with 200 people who had come to see a massacre, stopped cold. What happened in those 4 fleeting seconds wasn't just a display of basketball skill. It was a brutal, elegant lesson in humility that fundamentally altered how the giant viewed the game and perhaps his own life from that moment on. Today, you are going to discover exactly how one of the greatest, most intimidating players in the history of the sport was not just beaten, but completely dismantled, and how, in that process, he learned the single most valuable lesson of his professional career. To understand the weight of the moment, you have to understand the graveyard of ambition that preceded it. 41 men had passed through those doors before him, 41 consecutive failures, 41 broken dreams piled up on the floor like discarded equipment. The challenge was simple on paper. A cruel joke of a math problem, 10 free throws in a row. Not 9, not 11, but 10. No one had done it. Not once. Not in 3 years of desperate, sweating, heart-pounding attempts. There was $50,000 in cash, real, crisp, uncirculated bills, counted twice by a nervous accountant, sealed in a heavy-duty, clear plastic bag, resting on a folding table right in the center of the court, illuminated by a single harsh, industrial hanging light. It sat there like bait in a trap, where everyone could see it, touch it with their eyes, and imagine what it would feel like in their pockets, yet no one could ever quite reach it. The challenge was pure, unadulterated math. 10 shots, 1 line. Miss once, you walk away with nothing, your pride shattered. No second chances, no warm-up shots that counted for nothing, no do-overs. The first shot mattered exactly as much as the 10th. 41 men had stepped to that line. There were construction workers with calloused hands, former college guards with perfect form, a man who once played overseas for 6 grueling seasons, a desperate father who bet a week's worth of his kids' grocery money in front of his family, hoping for a miracle. All of them missed. Most of them fell apart by the 4th shot. The record for the furthest anyone had gotten into the streak was 8 makes. 8 beautiful, clean shots, and then a rim out that sounded, according to 3 different witnesses, like a gunshot cracking through the silence of a library. The man who owned a gym had set the bet up himself. A promoter, a fast-talking hustler with a good eye for a story, and an even better one for separating desperate men from their money. He called it the 10. No flash, no nickname, no marketing fluff. Just the number that absolutely nobody could reach. And then there was the reason nobody could reach it. His name was Shaquille O'Neal. Standing over 2 meters of pure, terrifying presence, weighing 150 kilos of muscle and bone. A rookie technically, but built like he had been drafted straight out of a limestone quarry. He didn't shoot free throws during the 10. He guarded the line. That was the catch. The nasty, unspoken, suffocating catch that nobody mentioned until you were already standing there, heart hammering against your ribs, with the basketball slick with your own sweat in your hands. Shaq stood barely 2 meters from the shooter, his arms out, a wingspan of over 2 meters that felt like it could wrap around the entire court. He didn't need to block the shot outright. That would be too obvious, too easy to call a foul. He did something infinitely worse. He moved at the exact microscopic moment of your release. A half step. A hand raised a millisecond before the time. A massive shadow that crossed the rim right as the ball left your fingers, disrupting your vision, your rhythm, your peace of mind. 41 men had felt that shadow. 41 men had missed. The average time to the first miss was 4 shots. The gym smelled like rubber, chalk, old dust, and the sharp, sour, distinct sweat of men who knew, deep down, that they were about to lose money they couldn't afford to lose. Folding chairs lined the walls, three deep, filled with spectators who were essentially voyeurs to defeat. An industrial fan turned in slow, rhythmic circles near the high ceiling, doing absolutely nothing against the stifling heat. The hardwood floor had a long, jagged crack near half court that everyone stepped over without thinking about it anymore. A scar that had seen too much failure. 200 people paid 5 each just to watch other men fail, to watch them crumble under the pressure of that single hanging bulb. That was a real business model. Nobody came to see the 10 get beaten, they came to see it survive, to watch the drama of the collapse. A scoreboard above the south basket tracked the makes in a row. It had never, not once, read higher than 8. The gym held 206 chairs that night. Every single one of them was filled. If you enjoy these kinds of stories of human struggle, of deep-seated grit, and of the legendary behind-the-scenes moments that reveal the truly human side of sports giants, please take a second and click the subscribe button down below. It helps us find more of these stories. And before we continue, I have to ask, from which city and state are you watching this video? I really want to know how far this story has traveled. The promoter had made more money on tickets over the last 14 months than the 50,000 sitting on the table ever represented. And he had never once had to pay it out. This was the wall. This was the impossible. How on earth does anyone beat that? 3 weeks earlier, 400 miles to the north, a phone rang in a quiet kitchen in Indiana. "You're not going to believe what I just watched," the voice on the other end said, urgent and breathless. His name was Carl Webb. He'd known Larry Bird since they were kids in high school. He'd seen Larry do things with a basketball that simply shouldn't have been possible by the laws of physics, and yet he still called Larry every single time he found something new that seemed impossible. Larry didn't say anything at first. He was eating cereal at the counter, the bowl clinking rhythmically. He held the phone with his shoulder, listening. Guys over 7 feet, 260 pounds, stands 8 feet off the line, 41 guys tried, 41 missed. Best anybody's gotten is 8, makes out of 10. "What's he do?" Larry asked. It wasn't a question with much curiosity in it. It was flat, monotone, like he was asking about the outside temperature. "He moves right as you shoot. Hand up, step in. Throws off your rhythm before the ball's even in the air." Larry kept eating, unmoved. 50 grand on the table, Carl said, leaning into the urgency. "Cash. Nobody's touched it." There was silence on the line for 3 seconds. Then 4. "How far's he stand again?" Larry asked. 8 feet. "Why? Where's he stand? Left side, right side, dead center?" Carl paused, confused. "Center, I think. Why does that matter?" "It matters," Larry said. That was it. One question about distance, one question about position, and absolutely nothing else. Carl waited for more and got nothing. The cereal bowl clinked once against the counter, signaling the end of the thought. "You're not thinking about doing this, are you?" Carl said, his voice rising. "I'm thinking about it. Larry, the man is 7 feet tall. You're 6'9" on a good day and good shoes. Height's not the problem." "Then what is?" "There isn't one," Larry said. "Not the way everybody's been playing it." Carl had known Larry long enough to recognize that tone. It wasn't confidence. Confidence is loud, even when it's quiet. This was something colder, more analytical. This was a man who had already solved the puzzle and was simply waiting for the chance to demonstrate his work. "You're going to get embarrassed," Carl said, trying to save him. "On camera, in front of 200 people. 41 guys before you, Larry. 41. Guys who could really shoot." "I'm not trying to outshoot him," Larry said. "Wrong contest." "That's not exactly reassuring." "Wasn't trying to reassure you," Larry said. "I was answering your question." Carl sighed into the phone, knowing he'd lost this argument before it even started. "When?" Carl said. "Saturday," Larry said. "I'll be there." He hung up. He didn't ask what Shaq looked like. He didn't ask what the floor was made of, or the rim height, or the ball's pressure. He'd already gotten the only piece of information that mattered, while everyone else who would watch this unfold would spend 3 more days assuming the puzzle was about strength, height, or nerve. It wasn't. Larry already knew that. Saturday night. The gym filled an hour before the first challenger walked up. Cigarette smoke drifted near the open back doors, where men gathered between attempts to talk about what they'd just watched fail. The overhead lights buzzed faintly, that kind of sound you stop hearing after the first 10 minutes and start hearing again the second something goes wrong. The announcer worked the floor with a cordless microphone, his voice bouncing off the cinder block walls, distorted and booming. $50,000, he said, for maybe the 20th time that month. 10 makes in a row. One man standing between you and history. He gestured to the table. The bag of cash sat exactly where it always sat, untouched, lit from above like evidence at a trial, gleaming under the harsh light. Dale Renner, or as the crowd knew him, the giant walked out from a side hallway to applause that had more fear in it than excitement. He didn't smile. He never smiled. He rolled his shoulders once, cracked his neck to one side, and took his position 8 feet from the free throw line, dead center, arms loose at his sides. He'd done this on 112 times this year. He had lost 0. The first challenger that night was a former Division II forward, 6'6", strong hands, a clean stroke from 20 years of practice. He made his first 3 shots without trouble. Shaq stood still, watching, measuring. On the 4th shot, he moved a half step forward, a hand lifted at the exact moment of release. The ball clipped the back rim and bounced straight up, 6 feet in the air, and came down on the side of the basket support pad. 4 makes. Streak over. The challenger didn't argue. He'd seen the tape from other nights. He knew the math. The second challenger was bigger, 6'9", a man who'd played professionally in Lithuania for 4 years. He made it to 6 before the same half step, the same shadow, the same miss. The crowd's energy had a particular shape to it now. It started as noise and was narrowing, shot by shot, into something quieter, something closer to dread. 200 people leaning forward in metal chairs, waiting for the moment they already knew was coming. A third challenger, a police officer off duty who'd bet 2 weeks of pay to be standing there. He made it to 5. A fourth man tried. A heavy-set former linebacker who'd never played organized basketball past high school, brought there by friends who thought his size might matter against Shaq's size. It didn't. 3 makes. The shadow didn't care how wide your shoulders were. It only cared where you were standing and when the ball left your hand. 4 challengers, 4 failures, 18 total makes between them against a possible 40. The math sat above the floor like smoke that wouldn't clear. The scoreboard above the south basket still read 8 in faded red bulbs, like an old festering wound that hadn't healed. The announcer raised the microphone again. "Last call," he said. "Anybody else?" Silence. 200 people who had paid 5 to watch other men lose. And not one of them wanted to be the next name added to the list. Shaq rolled his shoulders again, waiting, patient. A man with 15 straight wins behind him now, and no reason to believe tonight would be any different. Picture it for a second. You're sitting in one of those folding chairs. You've watched 3 grown men walk up to that line and walk away beaten, one after another, in front of everyone they know. The money's right there, 50,000. Real, invisible. 12 feet away from where you're sitting. And there's a man standing on that floor who has never lost. Would you stand up? Would you let your name get called and just stay seated? And let the moment pass you by? Drop your answer in the comments. I want to know what you'd do in that exact chair with that exact money sitting there. I'll try. 2 words. No raised hand, no walk to the microphone first. Just a voice from the 3rd row of chairs. Calm, almost bored. Like someone agreeing to take out the trash. Heads turned. Larry Bird stood up. Laughter rippled through the gym. Not cruel, but close to it. Protective laughter. The kind of laughter that comes from people who've already seen this story end 3 times tonight and assume they're about to see it end a 4th. Carl grabbed his arm before he reached the aisle. "Last chance," Carl said quietly. "Walk away now and nobody remembers you tried." "I didn't come here to be remembered," Larry said. He pulled his arm free, gently, and walked toward the floor. The walk took 11 seconds. It felt longer. 200 people watched a man in his street clothes. No warm-up jacket, no team colors, just a plain gray shirt and sneakers that had seen better years, cross the hardwood toward a 7-foot wall that had already beaten 41 men this year. His shoes hit the floor with a flat, even sound, no hesitation in the steps, no rush either. He stopped at the free throw line. Shaq stood 8 feet away, dead center. Arms loose, watching him the way a man watches weather rolling in with mild professional interest, nothing more. The size difference was almost comedic up close. Shaq's shoulders alone looked wider than Larry's whole frame. 6 inches in height, 60 pounds in weight, a reach advantage that, on paper, made this look less like a contest and more like an experiment in how fast the man could lose. The crowd noise had dropped to something just above silence. Somebody's chair creaked. It sounded enormous. The announcer handed Larry the ball. 10 in a row, he said. "You know the rules." "I know them," Larry said. He didn't bounce the ball first. He didn't set his feet the way the other 3 had. Squared up, dead center, staring straight at the rim. He shifted almost lazily 2 steps to his right. Not far, maybe 18 inches. Shaq's eyes followed him. A small adjustment, almost nothing. Larry raised the ball. Shot 1. Clean release. No movement from Shaq at all. The half step never came because Larry wasn't dead center anymore, and the shadow that had ended 41 careers required a straight line that no longer existed. Make. The crowd murmured. A small sound, confused, not impressed yet. Shot 2, same spot, same release. Shaq adjusted his angle slightly, tracking the new position. 2/10 of a second, slower than his usual half step, a gap that hadn't existed for 112 challengers, suddenly visible to anyone watching closely enough. Make. The murmurs grew. Something was different and nobody could name it yet. Shot 3. Larry shifted again. This time barely 6 inches, just enough to break whatever rhythm Shaq had built watching the first two. Shaq's half step came a fraction late. The shadow crossed the rim after the ball was already in flight. Make. The gym had gone fully quiet now. 200 people sitting in a silence that had weight to it. Shot 4, 5, 6. Each one from a slightly different angle, slightly different rhythm, never giving Shaq the same picture twice. The big man's footwork, which had looked unbeatable an hour ago against 3 other challengers, now looked like a man trying to predict a coin flip that kept changing its own rules. Make. 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 The scoreboard ticked past 6, past 7. Shot 7 hung at the rim for a half second, the kind of half second the whole gym felt in their chests, and dropped through. 8 makes, the old number on the board, the number nobody had ever passed. Shaq's jaw tightened. For the first time all night, he leaned forward before the shot instead of waiting for it. He was no longer measuring Larry, he was guessing. This is the part that matters. Every challenger before tonight had tried to beat Shaq with the shot itself. Better mechanics, stronger hands, more confidence. Option A, some tried to ignore him entirely, pretend he wasn't there. Option B, a few had tried to outstare him, win some psychological game before the ball ever left their hands. Option C, none of it worked, because none of it changed the geometry of the shadow. Larry chose option D, the option that doesn't exist on the scouting report. He didn't fight the shadow, he moved the line that created it. A 7-foot wall built to defeat a fixed point is no wall at all against a moving one. Shot 8. Make. 9 challengers worth of silence sat inside that gym now, all of it pointed at one man. Shot 9. Larry shifted his feet one final time, the smallest movement yet, barely visible from the bleachers. Shaq's whole body leaned with him, fully committed now, fully exposed. The ball left hands in a flat, quiet arc. Make. 9 in a row. One shot from history. One shot from 50,000 sitting under that single hanging light. The gym had stopped breathing. There's a particular feeling that comes with standing completely alone in a room full of people who all expect you to fail. Most of us know it from somewhere. A job interview nobody thought we'd get. A decision everybody told us was a mistake. A moment where the only person who believed it was possible was the one standing in the middle of it. Larry was standing in that exact kind of silence right now. The only person in that building who understood what was actually happening. Surrounded by 200 people who still didn't see it. If you've ever known that feeling of seeing something nobody else around you could see yet, that's part of why this channel exists. A place for people who understand that kind of quiet. And the stories that come out of it. If that's you, consider subscribing. Not for me, for this. Shot 10. Larry didn't shift this time, he stood dead center. The exact spot that had ended 41 careers, 8 feet from a 7-foot wall that had never lost. The whole gym understood in that instant what he was doing. He didn't need the angle anymore. He'd already proven the wall could be moved. Standing center now wasn't recklessness, it was the final word in the argument. He could beat the trick the easy way, from anywhere, or he could beat it the hard way, from the exact spot where it was designed to work. Just to make sure nobody could ever say there'd been a trick to it at all. Shaq set himself dead center too, arms loose, watching. This was his shot to take back the night, and both men on that floor knew it. The ball left Larry's hands. Shaq's half-step came. His hand rose. The shadow crossed the rim at the exact moment it always had. The exact moment that had broken 41 men before tonight. The ball arced through it anyway. It dropped through the net with no rattle, no spin off the rim. Straight through. The kind of make that sounds less like a shot and more like a door closing. 10. For one full second, nobody in that gym made a sound. Then it broke all at once. Chairs scraping, voices rising on top of each other. Someone near the back door is letting out a sound that wasn't quite a word. The scoreboard above the south basket flickered, then changed. The 8 that had sat there for 3 years became a 10 in the same tired red bulbs. Like the number itself didn't fully believe what it was being asked to display. The bag of cash sat exactly where it had sat all night. 50,000 untouched, waiting. Larry could have walked straight to that table. Nobody would have blamed him. He'd earned every dollar of it under rules everyone in the building had agreed to. He didn't walk toward it. He turned instead and walked back toward his folding chair, the same flat, even steps he'd used to walk out. He passed within 4 feet of the table. He didn't look at it. That was the moment, not the 10th make. The wall past the money he never reached for. He could have taken it, he chose not to need it. The applause took almost a full minute to settle into something that sounded like normal noise again. Shaq stood at the free throw line a moment longer than he needed to, looking at the spot where the ball had gone through 10 times, like he was trying to find the trick in it and couldn't. Carl met Larry at the edge of the floor. He didn't say anything at first. He just looked at him. "You mulled the line," Carl finally said. "That's it, that's the whole thing." "He built his whole game off one fixed point," Larry said. "Take away the point, you take away the game. And the last shot? You stood center on purpose." "Had to," Larry said. "Otherwise, somebody says it was a gimmick. Wasn't a gimmick. Was geometry. You didn't even take the money. Wasn't there for the money." Carl shook his head, half a laugh in it. The kind of laugh that comes after relief instead of before it. "Then why?" Larry looked back once at the table. The bag still sitting under that single light, untouched, exactly the way it had sat all night. 41 men walked up to that line thinking the wall was him, Larry said. Wall wasn't him. Wall was the idea that there was only one way to stand. He didn't say anything else. He didn't need to. What happened in that gym wasn't really about a 7-foot man or a free throw line or 50,000 sitting under a light. It was about a problem that 200 people had decided was unsolvable simply because nobody had solved it yet. 41 men had tried to win a fight that was never about strength to begin with. Larry saw the actual shape of the problem before he ever touched the ball. The same way he'd see a double team forming 3 seconds before it arrived. The same way he'd find the open man on the floor before that man even knew he was open. This wasn't a basketball move. It was a basketball mind applied to a question everyone else had been asking wrong. Shaq would go on to defend that line for another 11 months after that night against another 60-some challengers, and he would lose exactly once. The number 10 would sit on that scoreboard unbeaten a second time for the rest of the year. Nobody who watched it happen ever forgot the 18 inches Larry moved on the very first shot, the smallest distance in the building, and the only one that mattered. If you're still here, that means something. It means you're the kind of person who sticks around for the part of the story that isn't loud, the walk past the money, the quiet answer to a quiet question, the proof instead of the celebration. That matters more than people give it credit for. There's something worth carrying out of this one. The hardest walls usually aren't the ones in front of you. They're the ones in your own head about how many ways there are to solve a problem. If this story meant something to you, leave a like so it finds the people who need it. Subscribe if you haven't yet and stick around. Because there's another night, another gym, another impossible number on a different scoreboard. And Larry Bird hadn't even gotten started. Some walls get broken with force. This one got broken by a man who simply refused to stand where everyone expected him to stand. It wasn't just a game of basketball that night, it was a profound dismantling of a concept. We often think of strength as the ability to impose our will on the world, to crash through barriers, to lift heavier weights than those around us. We see a giant, and we assume the giant is the obstacle. But what Larry showed everyone in that room was that the obstacle was not the physical presence of Shaquille O'Neal. It wasn't the reach, it wasn't the shadow, it wasn't the intimidating stature. The obstacle was the belief that the game had to be played on Shaq's terms. It was the fear of the unknown, the acceptance of the status quo that had kept 41 men from finding the solution. By moving just 18 inches, Larry didn't just change his position, he redefined the battle. He showed that you don't always have to break a wall down. Sometimes, you just have to realize you aren't actually standing in a cage, but in a field where you have the freedom to move. That realization, the one that hit 200 people in the gut that night, was the true value of the 50,000. It wasn't about the cash. It was about the currency of perspective. When you are faced with a challenge that seems unbeatable, when you see a giant standing in your path, the instinct is to push back, to use force, to try to outmatch the obstacle at its own game. But life rarely rewards those who try to outmuscle the mountain. Life rewards those who find the path around it, the angle that hasn't been considered, the small, seemingly insignificant adjustment that shifts the entire paradigm. That is what Larry Bird mastered. He was a master of the unseen game. And the beauty of this story is that it doesn't end with a victory speech. It ends with a quiet exit. It ends with a man walking away from the prize because the prize wasn't the goal. The goal was the mastery of the moment. The goal was to prove that no wall, no matter how imposing, is insurmountable if you possess the clarity to see it for what it truly is, a collection of choices. So, the next time you feel like you're stuck, the next time you feel like there's a 7-foot wall standing between you and what you want, remember the 18 inches. Remember the silence. Remember that the giant's power was only as real as your belief in his dominance. And then, move. Make your adjustment. Find your angle. Because you don't need to be bigger or stronger to win. You just need to be the one who understands the geometry of the situation better than anyone else. That is how you change the numbers on the board. That is how you redefine what is possible. That is how you make the wall disappear. And if you think there is someone in your life who needs to hear this right now, someone who feels like they are standing against a wall they can't break, share this video with them. Let them see that there is always another way. The story of Larry and the Giant isn't just a tale about a gym in Indiana, it's a blueprint for navigating a world that constantly tells us we're too small, too slow, or too weak. It's a reminder that true power isn't found in the muscles, or the height, or the intimidation. It's found in the mind that stays quiet when everyone else is shouting, the mind that calculates when everyone else is guessing, and the mind that moves with purpose when everyone else is paralyzed by the shadow. This is the art of being unreachable, the art of being unsolvable. And that, more than any 50,000, is a legacy that lasts far longer than a night in a dusty gym. It lives on in the way you approach every single challenge that comes your way for the rest of your life. So keep your eyes on the rim, watch the geometry of your own struggles, and never be afraid to take that one small step that changes everything. Because when you do, when you truly understand how to play the game, you'll find that the giants aren't as tall as they look, and the walls aren't as solid as they seem. You have the power to dismantle the impossible, one subtle movement at a time. And remember, the people who win aren't necessarily the ones who hit the hardest. They are the ones who show up, observe, adapt, and execute with a precision that turns the impossible into the inevitable. The night in that gym was a testament to that truth. A night where the rules of the game were rewritten, not with a roar, but with a whisper. A night where 200 people walked in expecting a spectacle of brute force and walked out witnessing a masterpiece of intellect. And in that we find our own inspiration. We don't need to be the biggest. We don't need to be the strongest. We just need to be willing to look at the wall, understand its mechanics, and move our feet in a way that the wall never saw coming. That, my friends, is how you win. That is how you survive the shadows. That is how you make history. And who knows, maybe, just maybe, there's the 10 waiting for you somewhere in your life, a challenge that looks unbeatable, a giant that looks immovable. And when you finally face it, I hope you hear the quiet, steady rhythm of those basketball shots dropping through the net. I hope you remember that you have the power to shift, the power to adjust, and the power to defy the expectations of the crowd. The story doesn't end here, it continues in you. It continues in your next move, your next decision, your next challenge. Go out there and move your line. Go out there and find your angle. And never ever let the size of the challenge dictate the limits of your potential. Because once you've seen the wall for what it is, you'll never be trapped by it again. That is the lesson, that is the legacy. And that is why we remember. Not for the points, not for the money, but for the moment, the giant realized he was only a part of the equation, and the man who wasn't supposed to win, simply, quietly, changed the entire calculation. It's about the shift, the subtle, profound, life-altering shift that happens when you stop fighting the circumstances and start mastering the variables. It's about realizing that the struggle isn't with the giant, the struggle is with your own perception of what you are capable of. When Larry stepped into that gym, he wasn't playing against Jack. He was playing against the standard that had been set by others. He was playing against the collective resignation of 41 men, and by simply refusing to accept that standard, by refusing to be intimidated by the shadow, he liberated everyone in the room from the lie that they had to accept their own limitations. He showed them that greatness isn't about being the loudest voice in the room, it's about being the most aware. It's about maintaining a clarity of thought that persists even when the stakes are high and the pressure is suffocating. Think about that for a moment. How many opportunities have you missed because you were too busy looking at the giant in front of you? How many times have you retreated because you assumed the wall was impenetrable? How many of your ambitions have been shelved because you accepted the outcome before you even took the first shot? If you take nothing else from this story, take this. The limitations you perceive are often just suggestions, not laws. They are conditions set by the giants of your world, by the systems you operate in, by the fears that whisper in the back of your mind. But you are the one who decides how to move. you are the one who decides whether to stand where you're expected to stand or to shift, to adapt, and to find the path that leads to the basket. You have the agency to change the geometry of your life. And that is a powerful, dangerous, wonderful thing. It means that you are the author of your own success, provided you are willing to look past the intimidation and see the puzzle for what it really is. So, let this be the motivation you need to reclaim your agency. Let this be the sign that it's time to move your feet. Whether you're dealing with a difficult boss, a stalled career, a personal struggle, or a dream that everyone says is too big for you, stop trying to bash through the wall with force. Start looking for the 18 inches. Start looking for the adjustment. Start looking for the way to redefine the game. Because I promise you, the wall is not as solid as it seems, and the giants, once you see through their shadows, are just people. They are just variables in a game that you have the ability to play, and if you play it well, if you play it with intelligence and poise and an unwavering belief in your own capacity to adapt, you will find that there is no 10 you cannot reach. There is no challenge you cannot conquer. The only thing standing between you and your goal is the stubborn insistence that things must be done the way they've always been done. Break that pattern and you break the wall. It's that simple, and yet it is the hardest thing you will ever do. It requires you to be honest with yourself about your own preconceptions. It requires you to be willing to be the one who stands apart, the one who does things differently, the one who doesn't play by the rules that were designed to keep you losing. But isn't that worth it? Isn't it worth being the one who breaks the streak? Worth being the one who walks past the 50,000 because you proved you didn't need it? That kind of integrity, that kind of self-assuredness, that is the ultimate victory, and it's available to you right now. All you have to do is be like Larry. Be the one who asks the right questions. Be the one who sees the solution where others see only defeat. Be the one who moves with grace when others move with panic. And most importantly, be the one who walks out of the gym with your head held high, knowing you didn't just win a contest, but you conquered your own limits. That ultimately is what this story is about. It's about the triumph of the individual mind over the collective expectation. It's about the quiet, devastating power of being better prepared, better reasoned, and better adjusted than the opposition. It's about proving that even when the cards are stacked against you, even when the world tells you that you are outmatched, even when the shadow is looming large over your every move, you have the capacity to prevail. And you don't do it by getting bigger. You don't do it by getting stronger, you do it by getting smarter. You do it by being the architect of your own outcome. You do it by refusing to be a victim of your circumstances and instead becoming the master of your environment. And if you can do that, if you can embody that spirit, then there is truly nothing in this world that can stand in your way for long. The wall will move, the giant will blink, and you, with your flat, even steps and your calm, steady hands, will walk right through to the other side. This is your moment. This is your game. Now go out there and play it your way. The court is yours. The lines are yours to move. And history is waiting for you to make you move. So take it with everything you've got, and don't look back. Don't look at the money, don't look at the giant, don't look at the crowd. Keep your eyes on the rim, and let the world wonder how you did it. Because they won't understand the geometry, they only see the results. And results, as they say, speak for themselves. You have everything you need. You have the mind, you have the potential, and now you have the lesson. Now go write your own story, one make at a time. The scoreboard is waiting. Are you ready to change the number? I believe you are. And I can't wait to see what you do when you finally decide to move your line. Because that, my friend, is where the real game begins. That is where you become the legend you were always meant to be, the quiet legend. The one who breaks the rules, not because they hate the rules, but because they know that the rules are just a shadow, and shadows can't stop a man who knows where he's going. Go be that man. Go be that woman, go be the legend of your own gym. The night is young, the floor is waiting, and there is no such thing as an impossible number. There is only the number you haven't reached yet, so go get it. Go get your 10, and show the world what happens when someone finally decides to play the game on their own terms. It's not a dream, it's a reality waiting to be realized by someone brave enough, smart enough, and patient enough to take the first step. And that person, I am absolutely certain, is you. So move the line, see the geometry, break the wall, and above all else, keep shooting, because the only way you lose is if you stop. And after everything we've talked about, after everything you've learned, you're not the type of person who stops, you're the type of person who stays, who watches, who learns, and who ultimately, decisively makes the shot. Now go do it. and may the result be as clean, as satisfying, and as monumental as the night in Indiana. Your turn. Make it count. The story is finished, but your journey is just starting. And with the perspective you have now, with the understanding of what really makes a wall, there is nothing that can hold you back. You are ready. You have always been ready. Now, go show them. Go show them all.